Hi, I'm Carolyn. I'm an addict. It's so cool to be here. I think I came into the program 10 years ago when I was a teenager, and I honestly didn't think I'd still be clean today. I didn't stay consecutively 10 years clean, but I mean, it took a few tries. I'm finally in a place where I hope I'm done. I pray that I'm done. I don't ever want to go back out. Um, Back to the beginning. I grew up in an abusive household, and of course, it took me up until I got clean to realize that because it seemed normal. And there actually weren't any drugs in our household growing up. I've never even seen my dad hold a beer can. I've heard legend that he's had beer in his lifetime, but I've never seen it for myself. My mom, I don't know, had a couple glasses of wine here and there, never saw her drunk. And I'm the only addict of any of my siblings. I'm a triplet, and I have a fraternal brother, and I have an identical sister, and they're total normies, I think. I don't know why it hit me. It must have skipped a generation or so, because in my immediate family, yeah, I'm the only addict, but outside of that, I come from a long line of addiction, like way, way back. Anyway, I always thought I'd stay clean growing up. I really did. Like, I thought I was gonna be this goody two-shoes who, went to college and was like, no, I'm good. No, thanks, I'm good, right? And for the most part, up until high school, I was like that. I would go to parties with my friends, and all my friends were into drugs, and I could be right there sitting next to them, watching them get loaded and not think anything of it. Like, I had no interest. Like, one time I went to a party, they had a beer pong table, and they put orange juice in my cups because that's how I liked to party. But I did have a lot of other issues going on. I had really, really bad mental health problems that didn't know how to handle, didn't know what that was. I knew there was something wrong with me, but I couldn't tell you, like, the language that goes with that. I didn't know the word depression, but I knew I felt that way. And it just kept escalating and escalating until I was about 17 years old, and I tried to kill myself. Thankfully I lived, but it kind of switched me on in a different way. Like, after surviving that, I just didn't care about anything, and so I didn't really care about saying no to drugs anymore. And I didn't care about being alive. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to be alive. I just needed to cope. And as soon as I started using drugs, I'd found that coping mechanism, right? I learned how to self-medicate, and I was fully aware of that. I knew that's what I was doing. And I used to believe that if you felt the way I did and you were going through what I was going through, you'd be okay with it, and you'd probably be doing it too. I firmly believed that was okay. I thought I was like this exception. It caught up really fast. Within a few months, honestly, like not even a year, I was sneaking out of my house every night to go get loaded with my friends. I was in my first abusive relationship with a guy who introduced me to some drugs. I was ditching school so frequently that most kids didn't even know I was in their class until I'd show up, and they'd be like, "What are you doing here?" Like, "Hi, I'm enrolled in this class. I haven't been here in 2 months, but I'm in this class." And then ultimately I got kicked out of high school. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. Like, this is such a joke. I haven't been using that long. This is not a bottom. You're going to put me back in school. But my dean said, "You're not being expelled. I'm sending you somewhere else." And I got sent to my first treatment, which was a therapeutic boarding school for girls in Vermont called Bromley Brook School for Girls. It no longer exists, unfortunately, but that's where I spent my senior year of high school, surrounded by girls in uniforms who weren't allowed to leave the building without, like, being put in a van and shuttled around to meetings. But it was what I needed back then. I didn't see it that way at the time, But that was like probably the best thing my parents could have ever done for me. And I'm really grateful for it today. That's where I got introduced to meetings. And I was such a sucker for it. I loved it. At the meeting hall I went to, they had free popcorn and a dog. So that's why I went, really. I just wanted the popcorn and I wanted to pet the dog, and I didn't really listen very much. But the more I went, the more I started hearing things that I resonated with. And I was just amazed, like, holy cow, these 55-year-old balding men can relate to me. And that was so cool, you know? I didn't really ever feel like I felt in until I found the program of Narcotics Anonymous. And back then, I genuinely thought this was going to be it for me. I thought, I'm going to be clean till the day I die. I've got this. But I didn't have a sponsor. I wasn't working any steps. I was just going to meetings to socialize. I wasn't going for myself. I wanted my family to trust me again. And ultimately, my motivation was just trying to get everybody to like me and trust me again. So it was pretty shallow. I did relapse when I was 19, and it took me about 8 years of relapsing to get to the point where I was completely desperate enough to give over my will. In the time that I was relapsing, my addiction took me to some pretty colorful places. I squatted on the south side of Chicago in an abandoned factory for a while. Gave a guy stitches there. That was weird. I put myself in a psychotic state over and over again, because it turns out I have schizoaffective disorder, right, on the psychotic spectrum. But even though drugs made me psychotic, I knew I didn't care. I didn't care at all. I would wind up in the hospital over and over again in these horrifying situations and still just wanted to get out so I could get loaded. I even married a guy that I had only known for 2 weeks at one point, and I don't recommend that. That was a really messy 6 months. I'm so glad that's over. But, you know, I can't trust myself in that state. I feel like when I first got clean, I needed a giant sign on my head that says, you know, not responsible for my actions, because I didn't think I was. I thought I was the victim of everything. I thought it was his fault for marrying me. It was his fault for preying on me, but I put myself in a vulnerable situation from the result of my addiction. I did that. And it was hard to own up to that for a while. Yeah, my life has turned around a lot since I came back. I have 2 years now. I got 2 years on the 5th. Thanks. And in these 2 years, I look back at who I was 2 years ago and like cannot recognize that person. I feel a lot more comfortable in my skin today. I feel a lot more confident. But back then, you know, I was like a people pleaser. I still am, but I'm working on that. I was a people pleaser. I was really like, you know, naive, and like, you know, I was really bubbly. I kind of put people off by how excitable I was, right? Because I was just like this raging manic ball of energy. And I really needed to be broken down to the point that I could come in and say, I need help. I'm not going to meetings for fun anymore. I'm going to do what it takes. I got a sponsor. I tried really hard until I could finally fathom a concept of a higher power. That one was really hard for me. I felt like I was bashing my head into a wall trying to figure that one out. And I finally got this feeling in me that was like, hey, you're not alone, I'm here. And that was so cool, and really, really made a huge difference in my recovery to have that to pray to. Started doing the steps, really dug into the steps. And you know what? It gave me these amazing tools that I really needed, because I faced a lot of really hard challenges when I first came into the program. The first challenge, one of my loved ones died within my first month of being clean, and I had never really grieved clean before. I'd always been loaded when people died. Unfortunately, people die, but that one was something that I had to learn how to do clean, and that was a big lesson for me. Also, like I said, I have schizoaffective disorder, and I had some lingering psychosis when I got clean that didn't go away. I thought it would. I thought that once I was clean and off drugs, that would stop. But I actually had to go to the hospital a couple times within my first 6 months. I ended up in there again at 9 months. I lost my grandpa. I lost my dog. This month I lost 2 friends. So yeah, it was not easy. It was really, really challenging, and it still is. But you know, I didn't go out over it, and that's new for me because every other time I tried to get clean and couldn't, the pattern was that I was on this like euphoric pink cloud and everything was perfect and everything was coming back and life was great, and this time everything sucked, and that's what I needed. That's what God gave me, and I'm grateful for that because I needed those lessons and I needed to learn how to live clean, to stay clean. I have a lot more going on in my life today that I'm grateful for than I would have realized. Like, I'm sponsoring now, which I really love doing. I've got some really great women that I just adore who, like, one of them, she gave me a really cool book because I gave her a cool book, and now I've got a plant to give to her. Like, these relationships that I'm building mean so much to me, and it's just mind-blowing where it's taken me. You know, like, I've actually started going to meetings with my family whenever I see them in Chicago, going to Zoom meetings with my cousin in Chicago, and then another Zoom meeting with my cousin in the East Coast. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I never would have dreamed of before. I still get to be with my family now, and in a way that I never did before, and I'm really grateful for that. Anyway, I think that's about all I got, so thank you for having me.